My name is Denilson, and I need to tell you about the Halloween that made me stop answering my door after dark. I was 23, living alone for the first time in a small rental house on Maple Street. It was one of those quiet neighborhoods where everyone knew everyone, or so I thought. Halloween 2019. I'd bought candy, carved a pumpkin, done the whole thing. I was excited, you know. First time handing out candy as an adult, being the cool house. I should have noticed the silence earlier. By 8 p.m., I had maybe 15 kids total. The porch light was on, bowl of candy ready. I was watching a movie, half paying attention, when the doorbell rang. I paused the TV, grabbed the bowl, and opened the door with a smile. Standing on my porch was a kid, maybe 10 or 11 years old, wearing this old-fashioned clown costume. Not the modern kind. This was vintage, like something from the 1950s. Baggy polka dot suit, ruffled collar, and a mask. God, that mask. It was porcelain white with these painted red lips frozen in this too wide smile. The eyes were just black holes. "Trick or treat," the kid said, but the voice was wrong. Too flat. Monotone. I laughed it off, dropped some candy in the plastic pumpkin bucket, and said, "Great costume, man. Really creepy." The kid didn't move, just stood there, staring at me through those black eye holes. After a few seconds that felt like minutes, they turned and walked down my driveway. I watched them disappear into the darkness between streetlights. I closed the door, feeling this weird chill. Shook it off. Kids are weird, right? Especially on Halloween. 10 minutes later, the doorbell rang again. I opened it, and it was the same kid. Same clown costume. Same porcelain mask. Standing in the exact same spot on my porch, plastic pumpkin held out. "Trick or treat." I frowned. "Hey buddy, I already gave you candy, remember? You were just here." The kid didn't respond. Didn't move. Just stood there with that bucket extended. I felt this knot forming in my stomach, but I forced a smile. "Nice try, but one per customer, okay?" I started to close the door, and the kid's head tilted slowly to the left, like a curious dog. But wrong. So wrong. Then they turned and walked away again. Same mechanical walk. Same path into the darkness. I locked the door this time. Something felt off. Really off. I went to my living room window and peeked through the curtains, scanning my front yard. Nothing. Empty street. No kids. No parents. My porch light glowed alone. 20 minutes passed. I convinced myself it was just some kid messing with me. Maybe high schoolers playing pranks. Then my Ring doorbell app buzzed on my phone. Motion detected. I opened the app with shaking hands, and my blood went cold. The clown kid was back. But this time, they weren't on the porch. They were standing in my front yard, about 10 feet from my door, perfectly still, facing my house. The camera's night vision made those black eye holes look like voids. They'd been standing there for God knows how long, just watching. I didn't go to the door. I watched through the app as the kid stood there for 5 full minutes. Not moving, not breathing, it seemed. Then, slowly, they raised one hand and pointed directly at my living room window, where I was standing. My curtains were closed. There was no way they could see me. No way. I stumbled backward, nearly dropping my phone. When I looked at the screen again, the kid was gone. Just vanished. I checked every camera angle, front yard, driveway, street. Nothing. I turned off all my lights, turned off the porch light, pretended I wasn't home. My heart was hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. At 10:47 p.m., 3 hours after I turned everything off, my doorbell rang one final time. I didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't check the camera. It rang again, then again. Then it started ringing continuously, over and over and over, that electronic chime drilling into my skull. Then it stopped. Complete silence. I waited in the darkness of my living room for 20 minutes before I finally worked up the courage to check the Ring app. The notification made me want to vomit. Motion detected backyard. I don't have a camera in my backyard. That notification shouldn't exist. But there it was. I clicked it with trembling fingers, and the app showed me a live feed from a camera angle that doesn't exist in my house. It was pointed at my back door from inside my kitchen, and in the frame, I could see myself, sitting in my living room. In the dark, someone was in my house, had been in my house, watching me through a camera I never installed. I ran. I grabbed my keys, and I ran straight out my front door to my car, not looking back, hands shaking so hard I could barely get the key in the ignition. I drove to the nearest gas station and called the police. When the police searched my house, they found the camera, taped inside my kitchen cabinet, pointed through a crack in the door at my living room. It was connected to my Wi-Fi. Someone had been inside my house, had installed it, and had been watching me. But they never found who did it. Never found the kid in the clown costume. Here's what still keeps me up at night. When the police checked my Ring doorbell history, there was footage of the clown kid. All of it. Standing in my yard, ringing my bell, pointing at my window. But in every single frame, the plastic pumpkin they were carrying wasn't empty. It had a camera in it, pointed up at my face every time I opened that door. They knew exactly where I'd be, exactly when I'd be watching. I moved out 2 days later. I've never answered my door on Halloween since. My name is Davina, and I'm going to tell you why I'll never attend another costume party as long as I live. October 2021. I was a senior in college, and my friend group was obsessed with doing Halloween right that year. We planned this huge costume party at an old farmhouse one of my friend's parents owned, about 40 minutes outside of town. 30 people were invited. Costumes were mandatory. It was supposed to be the perfect night. I spent weeks on my costume, an elaborate Victorian ghost bride, complete with period makeup and this gorgeous tattered dress I'd thrifted and distressed myself. I looked incredible. I felt incredible. The invitation said 8 p.m. I arrived at 8:15. The farmhouse was perfect. 2 stories, wrap-around porch, surrounded by cornfields that rustled in the October wind. Orange and purple lights were strung up outside. Jack-o'-lanterns lined the walkway. Fake cobwebs covered the porch. Someone had even set up a fog machine that made everything look dreamlike and eerie. But when I walked up to the door, I noticed something weird. It was quiet, like really quiet. No music, no voices, no party sounds at all. I knocked. No answer. Tried the handle unlocked. The door creaked open, and I stepped inside, calling out, "Hello? Guys, am I early?" The inside was decorated beautifully. Candles everywhere, dim lighting. Fake ravens perched on furniture, more cobwebs. Someone had put a lot of effort into this, but it was empty. Completely empty. I checked my phone. 8:23 p.m. I pulled up our group chat. "Where is everyone?" I typed. While I waited for a response, I walked through the house. The living room, kitchen, the dining room, all decorated, all empty. There were even drinks already poured on the counter, condensation on the glasses like they'd been sitting there a while. A playlist was queued up on a speaker in the corner, but it wasn't playing. My phone buzzed. Finally, it was my friend Nicole. "What do you mean? We're all at Jake's apartment. Party got moved last minute. Didn't you see the message?" My stomach dropped. I scrolled up in the group chat. There it was, a message from yesterday afternoon I'd somehow missed. Change of plans. Party moved to Jake's place. Same time. Address below. I was at the wrong location. This farmhouse. This wasn't even the right place. But the decorations, the drinks, the invitation I'd received weeks ago specifically said this address. I pulled up the original invite on my phone to double check. That's when I noticed something that made my skin crawl. The invitation I'd received wasn't in our group chat. It was a separate text message from an unknown number. And when I scrolled through our group chat history, I realized my friends had been planning this party at Jake's apartment the whole time. For weeks. I'd never gotten their original invitation. Someone else had sent me to this farmhouse. I needed to leave. Right then. But as I turned toward the front door, I heard it. Footsteps. Upstairs. Slow, deliberate footsteps. Walking across the second floor. Back and forth. Back and forth. I froze. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I couldn't move. The footsteps stopped, directly above my head. Then I heard something that still haunts me. Laughter. Quiet, childlike laughter. But wrong. Distorted. Like it was coming through a radio with bad reception. The footsteps started again, faster now, moving toward the stairs. I finally broke free from my paralysis and ran for the front door. Grabbed the handle, pulled. It wouldn't open. It had locked behind me somehow. The footsteps were coming down the stairs. I could hear each creak, each step getting closer. I ran to the back door and the kitchen locked. Windows, latched from the outside somehow. I was trapped. I ducked behind the kitchen counter, pulling out my phone to call 911, hands shaking so hard I could barely dial. The footsteps reached the bottom of the stairs, stopped. Then, from the living room, in that same distorted voice, "Sarah, why did you come to my party?" It knew my name. I heard movement in the living room, something being dragged across the floor. Then the voice again, closer now, just on the other side of the counter where I was hiding. "I sent you a special invitation, just for you. Did you like my decorations?" I looked up slowly, and standing at the edge of the counter was, God, I don't even know how to describe it. It was wearing a costume, a patchwork thing made of different materials, burlap, leather, what looked like skin. The mask was handmade, crude, with uneven eye holes and a stitched mouth frozen in a smile. In its hand was one of the drinks from the counter. "You're the only one who came," it said, and I could hear the smile in its voice. Everyone else ignored my invitations. But you came dressed up and everything. That's when I saw the walls in the living room. Really saw them. The decorations weren't decorations. The ravens were real, taxidermied, their dead eyes staring. The cobwebs weren't fake. They were real, thick, covered in dead insects. And the photos on the wall, they were pictures of me walking to class, me at the coffee shop, me at the grocery store, dozens of them. Some were weeks old. "I've been planning this party for a long time," the figure said, "just waiting for the right guest." I don't remember exactly how I got out. The police report says I broke through a window, that I ran through the cornfield in my costume, blood streaming from cuts on my arms, until I reached the road. A passing car picked me up. When the police went to investigate, they found the farmhouse. They found the photos. They found equipment for things I don't want to think about. But they never found who sent the invitations. Never found the person in the costume. Here's what I can't forget, though. When the police checked my phone, they found something in my camera roll that I never took. It had been uploaded remotely sometime during that night. It was a photo of me, sleeping in my apartment, in my bed, time-stamped from 2 nights before the party. They'd been inside my home, watching me, photographing me. The invitation wasn't random. I was chosen. My name is Nelson, and I need to warn every parent out there about what can hide in something as innocent as Halloween candy. Halloween 2020. My daughter Emma had just turned 7, and despite COVID, we decided to let her trick-or-treat in our neighborhood. Just our street, people we knew, masks on, hand sanitizer ready. We were being careful. Safe. I thought we were being safe. Emma was dressed as a princess. Pink dress, plastic tiara, the works. My wife and I walked behind her as she ran from house to house, her pillowcase bag getting heavier with each stop. She was so happy. It was the first normal thing we'd done in months. By the end of the night, she'd hit maybe 20 houses. We got home around 8:30, and as any parent knows, the first thing you do is check the candy. We spread everything out on the living room floor. Emma sat there with this huge grin, organizing her haul by type, Chocolate here, hard candy there, chips over here. Standard stuff. My wife and I checked each piece, looking for anything unwrapped or suspicious. Everything looked fine. Sealed bags, recognizable brands, nothing tampered with. We let Emma have 2 pieces. She chose a Snickers and a pack of Skittles. Then we packed the rest away in a plastic container on top of the fridge. 3 days later, Emma asked if she could have some candy after school. She'd been good, finished her homework, so I said sure. I pulled down the container and let her pick. She chose a small plastic bag with what looked like homemade cookies inside. There was a little orange ribbon tied around it with a tag that said, "Happy Halloween," in neat handwriting. I paused. I didn't remember seeing this one when we checked her candy, but my wife must have cleared it, right? It looked harmless. Local neighbors do homemade treats sometimes, and we knew most people on our street. I handed it to Emma. She opened it, took out a cookie. It was shaped like a jack-o'-lantern, orange frosting with a black face, and took a bite. "It's good, Daddy," she said, crumbs on her face. I smiled and went back to making dinner. That night, Emma didn't eat much dinner. Said her stomach hurt. We figured too much sugar. Happens every Halloween. We put her to bed early. Checked on her once. She seemed fine. At 2:47 a.m., my wife shook me awake. Nelson, something's wrong with Emma." We rushed to Emma's room. She was sitting up in bed, but she wasn't moving. Just sitting there, staring straight ahead. Eyes wide open but glassy. Unfocused. "Emma, baby?" my wife said, shaking her gently. No response. Emma's eyes didn't even blink. We turned on the lights, and that's when I saw it. Emma's hands were clenched in her lap, and between her fingers, there was something moving. I grabbed her hands and pried them open. In her palm were these things. They looked like seeds at first, small and dark, but they were writhing, pulsing, and there were dozens of them. My wife screamed. I scooped Emma up and we ran for the car, still in our pajamas, and drove straight to the emergency room. Emma wouldn't wake up the entire drive. She just sat there in her mother's lap, eyes open, not blinking, breathing slowly. And those things, those seeds, they'd started crawling up her arms. The ER doctor took one look and immediately called in specialists. They'd never seen anything like it. They sedated Emma, removed the organisms from her skin, ran every test imaginable. It took 48 hours before Emma woke up. She didn't remember anything after eating the cookie. Didn't remember sitting up in bed. Didn't remember the things in her hands. The organisms the doctors removed, they sent them to the CDC. I got a call a week later. They were eggs. Some kind of parasitic wasp eggs that had been cultivated, genetically modified somehow. They were designed to hatch when exposed to human body temperature and secretions. Designed to burrow. The cookie had been full of them. The police investigated. They wanted to know which house gave us the homemade cookies. I tried to remember, but here's the thing. I couldn't. We checked the videos I'd taken of Emma trick-or-treating that night. Watched every second. Not a single person on our street gave out homemade cookies. Not one. The bag shouldn't have existed. It was never in Emma's pillowcase. We checked our home security cameras. All of them. Front door, back door, driveway. On November 1st, at 3:47 a.m., exactly 24 hours before Emma woke up with those things on her, our back door camera caught something. A figure, dressed in black, face covered. They walked calmly up to our back door, tested the handle, locked, then moved to the window. Our kitchen window. The one we always left unlocked because the screen was broken and we kept meaning to fix it. They opened it, climbed inside. The kitchen camera isn't visible from that angle, but you could see the shadow move through our kitchen, toward our living room, where Emma's candy container was on top of the fridge. For minutes later, the figure climbed back out the window and disappeared. They'd been inside our house, while we slept upstairs, while Emma slept in her room. They'd put that bag in her candy. Emma recovered, physically at least, but she doesn't sleep well anymore. Neither do we. We've moved twice since then. New locks on every door, every window, cameras everywhere. The police never found who did it. The CDC couldn't trace where the organisms came from. The investigation went cold. But here's what I can't stop thinking about. What keeps me up at night? Checking and rechecking those locks. A week after Emma came home from the hospital, I was going through her Halloween photos on my phone, trying to delete them, trying to move on. And I found something I never noticed before. In the background of one photo, Emma smiling with her candy bag, our front porch behind her. There's a figure, standing across the street, just barely visible between two cars. They're wearing black, face covered, and they're holding something, a small plastic bag, with an orange ribbon. They were watching us that night, watching Emma, waiting. I don't know who they were. I don't know why they chose us. I don't know if they're still watching. But every Halloween since, I don't let Emma trick or treat. I don't answer the door. I don't even turn on the lights. Because somewhere out there, someone turned Halloween into something else. Something patient. Something deliberate. Final whisper. And they knew exactly where we lived. These 3 stories, they're all real. Real people. Real events. Real fear that doesn't end when Halloween does. If you've made it this far, do me a favor. Lock your doors tonight. Check your windows. And maybe think twice about answering the door on Halloween. Because sometimes, the scariest thing isn't the costume someone's wearing. It's what they're hiding underneath. Stay safe out there.